Welcome to the See Me Be Me podcast. I'm Nile Henry.
And I'm Blair Henry.
And we're two brothers who set out on a mission to make motorsport and STEM careers more diverse, affordable, and inclusive. We are the founders of the Blair Project.
This podcast series delves into the minds of inspirational individuals who come from ordinary and often humble backgrounds, but through their belief, dogged determination, and never give up attitude, have managed to overcome academic, social, or mental challenges to achieve their dream careers.
Our guests will share their life lessons that you too can apply to your own. We hope their stories will inspire you to go further, aim higher, and accept nothing less than you deserve. Your ambition, your purpose is all within, and we're here to help you unlock it. The planet of possibilities are endless.
You know who made it.
Hello and welcome to the See Me Be Me podcast. On today's episode, we are joined by the founder and CEO of Filamentive, Ravi Toor. Welcome to the podcast, Ravi.
Cheers, Niall. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on.
So, Ravi, can you tell our audience what is Filamentive and how did you and when did you start it and how did the idea come to be?
Yeah, of course. Filamentive is a brand of 3D printing materials, essentially the plastic ink, I like to say, for 3D printers. So it's the material that a 3D printer uses to take that material in and create, whatever desired object. Filamentive's specialism is sustainability, so prioritizing recycled material, bioplastics, advocating a circular economy, all those green initiatives we strive for. It was a business I started the groundwork probably 8 years ago now. It doesn't seem that long ago, but 2015, I would say. I was still a student at University of Leeds, studying environment and business, bit of a niche degree at the time, sort of combining the environmental science side with business studies, more of a traditional degree, some would say. And I think it was during that time, because I'd already had some experience of 3D printing, I think learning about the environment, sustainability, the problem of plastic in our environment, it gets you thinking. And of course, it's not just a light bulb moment. Yes, I'm going to start Filamentive, I'm going to do this. But over time, you slowly start to realize the environmental challenge in our society. And then I was sort of applying that to 3D printing. So, okay, 3D printing, most of the plastics coming sort of imported from the Far East, not necessarily an issue, but there's, of course, carbon impact associated with that. I think at the time as well, ABS, as you'll probably be familiar with when you were printing, was more of a toxic plastic at the time to print with, fumes, and maybe not necessarily as nice to print with as a PLA. So all those thoughts 8 years ago were coming to my mind really about, okay, 3D printing should be more sustainable. That's as far as I got at the time. And then, through a course of, looking into it more, speaking to the right people, I thought, well, let's give 3D printing materials a go. Let's see what we can do.
And then in terms of setting up a business based around environmental sustainability, Ravi, did you have anyone who inspired you to set up a business in that area, or was that just something that came from within yourself that you wanted to just pursue as a career path?
Good question. I think generally speaking, just growing up, I think with my dad starting his own business, from when he basically arrived from India as an 18-year-old, to be honest. I think he worked for a little bit when he came over, but he just started his own 2D printing business, as I like to say. So
Wow.
specializing, really at the start, small scale stuff like leaflets, banners, that kind of thing. So the printing aspect was always within me, like growing up, I suppose. Like, whenever your parents or family are involved in that kind of thing, in business, you kind of, you are inspired from a young age. And I think that was definitely myself. Still tried to apply myself at school, and I think high school times into sixth form. There's always a joke from the Asian community. You can only do one of four things really. So you doctor, lawyer, engineer, or business really. And it's well intended from family, but those are the kind of career paths you're kind of recommended to go down. So I did all my science A levels, biology, chemistry. Didn't do so well in the chemistry. And I was thinking, well, I'm not sure what I want to do at university, but I still should do a degree. Like my family, parents are saying I should do a degree. You
Yeah.
know, it's a bit of a social taboo if I just don't pursue that and do something else. But I always wanted to have the degree, but I think yeah, I'd always have that element of wanting to start a business from my dad. I think, and from seeing maybe other family friends involved in business. Like it's especially growing up, it's always that kind of thing. Oh wow, I want to you know do this or have my own thing. Uh, but as I was getting older, I was toying with okay, what do I want to be a pharmacist? Do I want to be this? I probably won't get the grades for dentistry, but you kind of evaluating the kind of traditional career paths as well. So it's a bit of an opportunity thing, really, which I maybe we'll get into. But yeah, the business side of it has always been, something within me has always wanted to do it. Really.
Oh,
Yeah. So that's very interesting. You said your dad was your role model growing up. But if
Yeah.
we take it back to your childhood, 8 years old, what
Yeah.
did Ravi dream of becoming?
What did Ravi dream of becoming? So for a long time, I wanted to be a pilot. I wanted to be a
Oh,
pilot.
okay. Okay.
Not sure why. Maybe it was going on a plane when I was younger. Just got fascinated. One of those kind of childhood dreams, really. Even now, sort of, certainly not a pilot, but it's kind of into like aviation, that kind of stuff. Really interested in sort of that arena. But I think I was around 12, and at Leeds Bradford Airport, there's like a flight training school next door, and I think my dad took me, and I wasn't, going for a lesson or anything, but we were just kind of inquiring. So I think you can start you can sort of do like a pleasure flight or something around that age. But I remember the guy saying, "Oh well, um, something about being colorblind," which I am. I do have that sort of very mild red green color blindness. It's not as dramatic as people think, but that it is a bit of a thing. So supposedly, and I've never really looked into it because I think that was the moment I was told, like, that's a bit of a challenge to become a pilot. So I think that was that dream was crushed at the time, age 12. Um, so I didn't really, again, like I said, I had an interest in aviation, but didn't really pursue it or really dream about it. But yeah, aside from business, it was becoming a pilot. I think was my dream as a child, Ravi.
Right. And then fast forward onto the entrepreneurial side, we've spoken to a lot of people on the podcast, and even, myself and Blair, our fondest memory of being an entrepreneur was back in school. We used to
Yeah,
go to Tesco's and, I think it was Netto when they used to exist, and buy sweets in cans and be selling them on the schoolyard and
yeah,
almost getting
yeah.
caught and suspended by teachers at school. What's your fondest memory of early memory of entrepreneurship? Was it when you started after uni, or was it even earlier?
It was earlier, and I can resonate with those stories because it wasn't me doing that, but a good friend of mine in school was the guy going to Lidl, buying the cookies, selling them, locker full of sweets, and then eventually head of year sort of told him he couldn't do it. Which I wasn't sure why at the time, but I guess they have to kind of discourage those things. Mine was a more of a random one, so I did have a foray into entrepreneurship. So um, remember we used to burn music onto CDs, basically, like you can put any sort of music, whatever, 50 Cent or anything. I was doing that for people, basically,
Mhm.
that maybe didn't know how to do it, or just thought, oh, here's the new 50 Cent album, or Usher, or whatever people were listening to. I think I was just selling him for a quid or something. Highly illegal at the time. So yeah,
was
even
that was that
now.
was that during the LimeWire and BearShare days? If you
Exactly, yeah.
remember those,
LimeWire,
yeah.
LimeWire days, exactly, Niall. LimeWire days, so sort of nefarious ways of getting music, really. Allegedly, getting that sort of thing. So yeah, I was just very brief. Probably made 20 quid from it. I don't think I sold more than 20 CDs, but that's what I was doing. Maybe in year 8, year 9. I do remember that. And I think I tried to be a DJ at one point, and I was just speeding the music. I was just speeding the music up, basically, and it just sounded a bit more like like the sort of niche kind of music at the time. The kind of like early house stuff. I don't know what I was doing at the time, but I don't know. A couple of people must have liked it, but yeah, I went down the music distribution path in school.
I remember when I got caught. I got caught twice selling sweets at school, and the second time they locked me in the cabin for a whole day. So as a
Okay.
punishment,
Oh
as a
goodness.
punishment. But hey, that's what you got to go through to be an entrepreneur. Just had it from a young age. Well, going to where you are today, Ravi. In terms of your work at Filamentive, what do you think gets people excited the most about the work that you do?
So I think there's two things. I think there's the 3D printing aspect, and I think those new to 3D printing or unaware of 3D printing, it's still so amazing to a lot of people what it can do, even on the plastic polymer end, even
Yeah,
on the bigger side, there's the metal 3D printing, the houses are getting 3D printed, but even with our kind of field, which I'm sure you'll know, you for a few pence and for just a few hours, you go from idea to a real thing. And you might need some CAD design skills or download a file online, but I think that still amazes people as a tool for manufacturing, for prototyping. So that's one element. Of course, most of our customers know 3D printing. They've been doing 3D printing years, or it's within the business. So I think that what would attract them or make us stand out would be the sustainability side, I would say.
yeah,
Maybe just what I mentioned in the introduction. So we're not perfect, and even studying sustainability, we were kind of told, well, you'll never get to perfect sustainability. It's always improvement and progression. Really, you can always be that 1% better sort of
yeah,
thing with anything, and I think sustainability is one of those. And we definitely position ourselves as not perfect, but hopefully doing the right thing. So prioritizing recycled material, even small things like the cardboard spooling on our filaments, it can be easily recycled. It's not a plastic reel that's going to go to landfill or just going to sit there in an office. And I think people are really resonating with that now,
yeah.
especially with the growing environmental pressure, consumer pressures. People, thankfully, and businesses are doing the right thing when it comes to environmental impacts. So I think when they're looking into ways, how can our 3D printing be more sustainable? Hopefully Filamentive, does stand out and attracts them, and opens up that conversation about what we can do.
And then my next question was going to be, so could you tell us more, like, what is the let's say the difference between the products that you have at Filamentive and let's say other like 3D printing materials? How do they compare?
So I think on the surface, it's the same materials
Yeah,
effectively. So, and when I say that, there's only 4 or 5 main polymers that are used in 3D printing. So the main one is PLA, polylactic acid, which
yeah,
maybe you guys will be familiar with. For the
correct.
audience, sort of new to 3D printing, that is a bioplastic. So it's actually derives from plant-based material, not oil-based, fossil fuel-based materials like an ABS. So instantly, it's already more sustainable, and thankfully 95% of the market are using that. So we sell a PLA, and other great sellers and outlets are selling PLA. Where we would differentiate, and not the only ones, I will add, but one of the few that prioritize this. But we try to make sure we're sourcing a recycled version of PLA. So we work with manufacturers, industry partners to make sure the plastic we source is from a more sustainable source. So it might not be 100% recycled, but we get to a point where that has less environmental impact, less energy has gone into that, less carbon has gone into that. And then, of course, we have to spool the material. We have to sell it on a spool for the 3D printers, and that would be a cardboard material spool, just to enable easy recycling for the user. Um, And I guess one of the other things is that you were one of the few UK brands out there. There's lots of great brands, most of which are sort of European continent based or Far Eastern. There's a growing number, but still a limited number of UK brands, and I still think the British brand holds true. And I think as businesses, they're certainly looking to onshore a lot of things, especially in the current climate. So I think where possible, people are looking to buy British or work with a local manufacturer. It's in their sustainability guidelines. It's something that they want to do.
Yeah.
So hopefully we stand out for the sustainability and maybe the Britishness as well, if that's a word, that kind of thing. Um, I'd like to think we stand out for those reasons.
So Ravi, you've mentioned PLA, you mentioned ABS. What are some of the other kinds of filament that you can use in a 3D printer? And for those who aren't aware, or have probably heard 3D printing but have never seen it being applications where it's been used, there are a lot of crazy industries where 3D printing is even being used, and some even in places that you would not expect. Can you take us through that as well?
Yeah, of course. As you say, there's lots of different applications now. It amazes you every day. I'm always getting impressed by what someone's doing. You never think of these things, but yeah. So there's a few main plastics that are used in 3D printing. First and foremost, so we have the PLA, which is used by most people. Very easy to use. Relatively low cost. A beginner can use it with just some basic sort of training. Um, but it doesn't necessarily give you the strength or the sort of uh, mechanical properties you might need if you want to print something functional, or that's going to be using an end use part. For that, you might use a PETG or PETG, the same material plastic bottles are made from, same as this drinks bottle or the plastic bottles we get, same material. Uh, that is also easy to print, very strong, durable, that kind of thing. But the other good thing from our point of view and with sustainability in mind is that we can source recycled PET quite not easily, but it's more ubiquitous than, let's say, a PLA source because it's used in a mainstream application. And it's also 100% recyclable. Of course, you need to always check with curbside or council recycling, but PETG is 100% recyclable material. We then have more sort of engineering grade materials, as they would be categorized. So there's carbon fiber PETG, so the same material with a loading of about 15% carbon fiber powder. I think, maybe some of us into cars or whatever might have heard of carbon fiber, this kind of thing. So very lightweight, very strong material used all over industries to give them enhanced properties. And one thing I like about, which is a shame I don't have sort of a print here to show our viewers, but it has a really nice finish in terms of like a satin, almost semi-gloss. You can't see the layer line, so those that are familiar with 3D printing, one sort of not drawback, but one sort of consequence of 3D printing is that you see the lines
Yeah.
in every layer of the print. With carbon fiber PETG, you really don't see that just because of the blend of the material. And as I said, it's very strong. People are using it to make sort of carabiner clips, other products that are going to be used, maybe bike accessories, a mount for your phone. These kind of things that might take some impact, and it needs that sort of compressive strength. And then another one which is increasingly popular. I mentioned ABS earlier. We also have ASA, which is another styrene-based material, hence the S, but very strong. Very good sort of lightweightness to it, so it's not very dense, but it's UV resistant, and that UV resistant means you can take it outdoors. It can be exposed to sunlight. So we've seen people produce outdoor furniture,
Oh,
sort of birdhouses, anything that's going to be outdoors,
yeah.
where something like a PLA is going to degrade. They're using ASA. Does need higher temperatures, a bit more experience printing with it, but it's that real benefit of seeing 3D printing used for something real.
Oh.
It's not just a prototype. It's not just something on an engineer's desk. It's a real product that's been printed.
That's a new one. I've never heard of the ASA one before, so
Yeah,
I'll have to have a little bit of a read up on that after this, really. So it's been a
definitely.
while since I've done 3D printing, but I won't mind getting back into it eventually in the future.
That's
So
it. No, it's always good to get back into, and probably applicable for some of the stuff you guys are involved with, actually, with some of the automotive kind of thing. Going, I think those are the materials you mentioned, Niall, but also some of the cool applications. There's all sorts weird and wonderful. I would say one of my favorite, and I never hesitate to say my favorite, and I'm not, sort of giving spotlight to anyone for that reason, but you might have heard of Open Bionics. And for
Yes.
those that haven't heard of Open Bionics, they're a really cool, I was going to say startup, but probably, established medical device business now, based in Bristol. And because of 3D printing, they are able to produce 3D printed prosthetic limbs for mostly children born as amputees or with limb differences, limb problems. And without 3D printing, that would be prohibitively expensive. Somebody would need to pay 30, 40, 50,000, however much it is. But now with the NHS partnership, it's low cost enough for the NHS to be able to afford that. And it's something really cool that a child or anyone with a bionic arm can have customized. So I think they've had collaborations with Marvel and other sort of
Oh,
brands where a child can really be proud of something like that, and it doesn't stand out as what it is. It's almost becomes part of them, and I think their mantra or slogan used to be turning disabilities into superpowers, and I just thought that was so powerful and just like a lovely thing to see. We can talk about 3D printing, sustainability, and cost savings, and all these industry terms, but for open bionics and people using it in the medical field, it's changing lives, it's
No,
improving lives, and
absolutely. No, I was just going to say
yeah,
absolutely, and
yeah,
it's even being used to print new limbs as well. Or they're definitely trialing it at the moment. I've seen reports of that.
they are. It's the bio printing and the medical printing is exactly that. It's really advancing now, so we're starting to see it have such an impact in the fields it needs to.
now, Ravi, what I wanted to go on to next is you mentioned in your bio the importance of giving back. So you mentioned you do like lectures in front of like young entrepreneurs and also like university students who are similar to yourself, like when you were first getting your business started. So how much interest is there from like let's say the entrepreneurs and the university students that you spoke to in the past and delivered lectures to, like in terms of inspiring them to go into environmental sustainability?
I think there's huge interest, Blair. I think you know. I think the students coming through now. I mean, it was 10 years ago since I started my degree. I think the next generation. I don't always like saying that, but I guess the next set of students coming through. I think they're very in tune with what's going on because they've grown up with these sort of environmental pressures and with that sort of increased activism and things we see in the media. I think
Yeah,
the spotlight has been on sustainability, whilst some of these pupils have been in school and they've seen things at an earlier time, whereas I was 18, 19 when I started realizing sort of our environmental challenges. I think children now and anyone coming through now are seeing that firsthand, and I
yeah,
think the as I said, the sort of communication on that has improved in mainstream media. In terms of entrepreneurship, I think there's a huge appetite. So I'm a little bit biased, but I go back to Leeds Uni quite often. In fact, today, on the day we're recording this, I've got something there as well. So I'm always happy to go back. It's a privilege, as I always say, because they help me, do what I'm doing now. I won't say get to where I am because I think there's always more to achieve, and I'm not on any high horse that I'm giving back because I'm here and I need to help someone there. But I think it's always valuable to hear from someone that's maybe 5 years on, 10 years on from your journey,
yeah,
and not necessarily boast and say I've done this, I employ this many people, this is my turnover, we supply these companies. It's probably nice to say, and but there's like elements of inspiring people. But I talk about the challenge. I talk about the fact there's times where things aren't going to plan. There's times where you're going to doubt you are the person. The whole imposter syndrome. That's a huge thing and whole other area. So, and I also tell them, look, most of you sitting here probably won't be doing this business because I've had other businesses, my peers have had other businesses. You might think they fail, and most businesses do fail, but there's always a learning opportunity in there. There's always a point where you say, well, that didn't work out. Let me reflect. I'll take it onto that next venture, that next opportunity. I I was fortunate, and it's a shame the university don't offer it now, but I had the opportunity to do a year in enterprise. So you know how you can do a year in industry or a year abroad at
yeah.
most universities, that kind of thing. I didn't know when I applied, so like pure serendipity, as I like to say. Leeds Uni had a year in enterprise, so between years 2 and 3, they basically give you some living allowance and some sort of funding and support to have a year between uni to work on your business. Only 5 students, 4 or 5 students at the time. They did discontinue that, but they still offer a lot of other support like grants they get from alumni funding. But I had a full year to almost fail, like basically like fail, learn. I wasn't making money in that year. I wasn't, eh, progressing massively in the business. I was finding my feet. You speaking to suppliers, you realize things don't go how you want. We all have that. We plan things out. We write a business plan. Always the turnover is always 10 times projected. Where it probably is, just because we're aspirational. We have that positive mindset, but things don't often work out. So I came back year 3 of my degree, then graduated thinking, well, kind of need to give this a better go. Like, something needs to be changed here, and I did. So it was almost 2 years getting it off the ground until I graduated, and I communicate this to students or people wanting to start a business. Because I say, look, I hope it goes perfectly, swimmingly, but it's probably not going to be like that. You're gonna be down. You're gonna doubt yourself. Things do take an impact on your mental health when you're going through business. It's not all the singing and dancing. It's not all podcasts and speeches and saying I work with this client and we've got this funding. There's a lot to it, and I know there's a lot of that out there. They don't need to hear that from me. There's a lot of podcasts and books out there. People talk about failure, but I think there's a huge appetite for business now, and I think um, there's no better time to do it, especially in our age with social media, digitalization, globalization. It's the perfect environment, isn't it? To at least have a go, is what I like to say.
Absolutely.
No, I love that you jumped on that topic about challenges, and that's what I kind of want to ask you, Ravi, in terms of people listening to this podcast. Sometimes in entrepreneurship, people only share the positive moments, but then they don't see the challenges or the rough times that somebody's had to go through to get to the point where they become a success, or even at the point where they are a success and things are dipping. Sometimes they won't show that side, and you think, oh wow, what happened? Everything was great. But in terms of yourself, what has been in your entrepreneurial journey, what's the biggest challenge that you've had to overcome, and how did you do it?
The biggest challenge, very good question. I think there's always several, as you say, Niall, and it's never, it's never portrayed by other businesses, is it? But there's always things going on in the background. I think the initial challenge with us, especially when I was giving it a go, is just finding customers. I've got this brand. I think I've got a great product. You're very sort of biased and naive, I guess, when you're starting a business. And I certainly was thinking, I've got this product. Yeah, I'm going to sell it for this price. Everyone's going to love it. It's recycled, whatever. I believe in it, but it's how do you then go out and sell it? How do you do it? You can't just you can have the best website. You can start posting the best graphics on social media, but if there's no audience there, who's going to be interested? Who's going to see it? So I kind of, I didn't really have any marketing experience, and the understanding of marketing at that time is just posting on social media, isn't it? Like, you suddenly learn through business and just growing up and reading things, learning things that marketing is that whole process of getting your product to market. It's not just how you promote it. So I think one thing I did, very specific to Filamentive, granted, but it's looking for the low hanging fruit. Like who is going to use this product? Okay, anyone with a 3D printer. Okay, well, I have to be more specific than that. You really need to think about your personas, your target markets, your segments. And I thought, well, I think businesses are going to be quite interested in this because it ticks the sustainability box that people want. We're not the cheapest product, so we might not get that uh, boy or girl at home with a 3D printer that doesn't have a lot to spend and is maybe buying a different brand. We're not maybe in that price bracket. So let me see who I can find who's using products. So at the time, still is the online platform 3D Hubs. You probably remember now called Hubs. Actually, they rebranded after being acquired.
Yeah.
So once upon a time, it's not like this now, unfortunately, but they used to list all their partners. So they used to list all the 3D printing businesses that did contract jobs for them, basically, almost like the restaurants on Just Eat or Uber Eats or something. So it's like, well, I've got some takeaway products to sell. Let me just ring, ABC takeaway or whatever. So there's a list of 50 businesses there, Blair 3D printing, Manchester 3D printing, whatever. Most of the others as well. And I think that's why you can resonate with them. Is there were other small businesses or like solopreneurs, sort of one man bands, as they say. So I just either picked up the phone, sent them an email. I just focused on those 40, 50 customers. Don't get me wrong, other people maybe found the website through other means. But I thought I don't have masses of money to spend on paid advertising. I don't know really what I'm doing either, even if I did have loads of money to spend on this advertising. But I know these people use 3D printing material, so let me just like go for it. And I think you have a bit of that adrenaline in you, and you maybe have that. It's naivety as well, really. You just kind of you don't fear anything. You're just calling people, and you maybe go over the top on the sell, maybe straight away looking back, but just making those connections and just getting off the ground with those customers. Look, all of them didn't buy. I'm not going to portray a picture. Yeah, there were 50 businesses. All 50 of them bought. It was millions of pounds. Nowhere near, but 10 of them, 20 of them, uh, you know, built rapport. They wanted samples, so I learned about the sort of sales cycle. Okay, you can't sell straight away, but I need to understand what materials do they use, who are they using currently, how do we better what they have currently. I don't want to put someone else down. I don't say don't use XYZ brand, but we can do this for you, we can do that for you. So you're learning on the job, sales and marketing really. And those first few customers got us off the ground. I think in the first year, it was maybe tens of thousands of turnover, nothing massive, but just enough to keep us turning over, buy more stock, invest in new materials, get the website going. And you're just going through that process, really. Um, so, yeah, to anyone with a business, especially like a product based business, um, I just, really narrow it down. Don't think that this is for everyone. Who can you sell
Mm,
to? Is it your friends and family? Okay, that can be awkward, a bit difficult. Is it
yeah.
fellow students? Like, if you're starting a business, just think small straight away because you don't need to be doing 6 figures, 7 figures straight away. You want to, I hope you do. We all want you to do well, but really niche it down. Really focus on that key segment if you can identify that, and just go for those
Mm,
people. Because even if they don't buy, you'll learn a lot. You learn a lot about the market and you learn a lot about your own product. They might try it and say, "Look, Ravi, that was rubbish," or "That isn't as good as that." So then you go back to the drawing board. It's a harsh truth. It's an uncomfortable truth. But I think if we don't face these things, we don't grow. So yeah, that's always my advice. Maybe generic advice, whatever. Niche it down, keep it small. But you know, I read a book. I forgot which one it was now, but it said your target market should be an inch wide but a mile deep. And
mm.
that kind of changed how I thought about things. Like,
Mm.
don't be for everyone. You're not going to be for everyone. Filamentive isn't for everyone. You have to really focus on who's going to be interested.
No, I completely agree with that. And the most powerful marketing, I believe, is word of mouth. If you can focus on that small demographic and create a great service or a great product, they'll be your biggest
Yep.
marketing tool because they'll spread the word, and then you'll find
Yes.
more and more people using your products. Whereas, you know, you can use the traditional methods, social media, but you might get out to a wide range of people, but people might not use that service. So having a core niche is always, I'd say, is vital. But Ravi, what in terms of your journey then, what was the major turning point in Filamentive? So you said that you started at 21, didn't have
Yep.
a huge customer base. You started messaging these companies on hubs, and you first started to get a bit of
Yep.
business. But what was the major turning point for you?
Yeah. So we were getting traction in the first couple of years. So I think things were going well. Relatively. You kind of think, I'm getting a good gut feeling about this. I think the turning point was 2018. Um, And I'd say for a couple of reasons. So I think first and foremost, I mean, I'll be honest, up until then, I was basically doing everything in the business, from marketing, sourcing the product. I was packing the orders. I was doing everything. I had a bit of help from my dad, and sort of he had a business, and I think we were like sort of sharing one of the employees to have a hand. And it wasn't masses of orders at the time, 10, 20 a day. I was doing everything, but it got to the point where I could afford to bring someone in to help me with some of the things that they would free me to then work on business development marketing. So it got my first employee after 2 years. Employed my first person. They specialized in packing the orders, the warehousing, a bit of customer service. Um, these really important tasks that need to be done. It was me doing it before, but that freed me up for 2, 3, 4 hours a day to work. There's a saying: work on the business, not in the business.
Yeah.
Which I know it's like very grand and easy to say it when it's just you, but if you get to a point where your expenses are covered and you can afford someone, and I'll be honest, that was part time. That was I think it was just over £1,000 a month for the person that was working for however many hours at the time. So even starting small, I would say as well, don't think you need to employ someone on 50K like straight away. Like you can start small, you can
Yeah.
outsource things, get someone part time, a student. There's a lot of flexibility, I would say. And I think the second thing, and you'll recognise the company and the people, but it was starting our partnership with 3D GBIRE, who, for the viewers and listeners that are not aware, they are uh, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, 3D printing distributor and specialist. So they retail and distribute the main 3D printers in the UK. So Ultimaker, one of the main brands, Race 3D, they've got their foot in the door in industry. Great team over there. So many of them, and I know, the Blair Project have worked closely with them as well. And I think getting that partnership sort of, you get that credibility. I'll be honest. Like if you're stocked by a company like 3D GBRE, there's some gravitas to that and some weight behind you. But I think secondly, they opened up the door to sort of increase sales through distribution and also to their own customers. So 3D GBRE and Ultimaker GB, they've got printers at Airbus, Rolls Royce. All the big boys in manufacturing engineering. Not all customers necessarily, but it's very difficult to reach the right person or reach the buyer within these organizations, which is a whole other area, isn't it? Which I know you'll both be familiar with in terms of procurement and all those headaches. But I think if you want scale in terms of revenue, and I know it's just one of those corporate sort of entrepreneur words, but if you can't do everything direct selling, there's nothing wrong with partnerships, and there's nothing wrong with exploring what another business could do, especially if you have a product business, finding resellers, distributors. I think that was key, and we started that in 2018 as well. So I think there was two things there. There was freeing my time as the business owner to work on marketing, sales, and employing my first employee, but then also scaling the business revenue wise through that partnership, which had a really big impact. And then it's just leverage, isn't it? The more revenue, your profit margins have to be right, but you're then investing in that in further growth, really, which is it's always a process. It's easier said than done, but I think those are the two turning points, I would say, where we had a step change in our sort of impact and scale.
I wanted to ask Ravi, did you encounter any, let's say, fears or like barriers in setting up a business well as a student? Or because some of the guests we've had in the past, they said like in the back of their mind was there like this bit of fear, or some of them have said that, oh well, I know I just have to go for it. Do you have any like fears in the back of your mind, or do you just think, you know what, I've got this passion, I just need to go for it?
Like an imposter syndrome, for example.
Yeah, I would say yeah. I think imposter syndrome is real. I think there's always elements. Even now, certain things you might do, and it's you know y- you might not you don't have full faith in yourself, but you might have that fear, doubt, that kind of mild anxiety about certain things. But I think as a student, okay, I kind of had the opportunity to start working on it whilst I was a student. I didn't have to wait until graduation, so I'm very grateful, and always shout out Leeds University for giving me that opportunity. But I think as I was approaching graduation and not necessarily taking a huge salary, and then seeing some of my peers get, some really good grad jobs. And I think at that point in life, and maybe just generally that's how our society talks, but people are always quick to talk about, I've been offered this much and got this much. I'm thinking, hang on, I know I've got a business, but why am I not on, 30,000, 40,000 pounds, And you're kind of doubting yourself thinking, well, this is well, am I doing the right thing? Like business, it sounds good, whatever, but I'm not earning that. Like, should I be earning that? And then you doubt yourself, like, you start questioning what you're doing it for. And of course, we all need money, and more money is great for whatever we want to do with it. But I think there is more of a purpose when you're trying to run a business, I would say, and I think you kind of quickly overcome that when you kind of hitting certain milestones in the business, but I think again, there's another famous entrepreneurship quote, but it's like I'd rather work 80 hours for myself than 40 hours for someone else.
Absolutely. Uh,
And I don't want that to come across horror. People listen to this, probably have really good jobs. They're not entrepreneurs. There's no dig there, but I think the meaning behind it is that there's more to it than just the monetary value, isn't there?
yeah.
There's something about doing your own thing.
And then from where you are now, Ravi, what are your aspirations for the future of Filamentive?
Your aspirations, yeah. I think just replicating what we've already done and
Yeah,
just growing it. Okay, size of the business, yes. Financially, that kind of thing. Having more impact as well. I think in certain environmental initiatives. So there's a huge issue of plastic waste in 3D printing. So it's fine people using recycled materials, whatever, but
yeah,
after a print has been made or it has no use anymore, that's just plastic waste. Okay, it doesn't compare to some of the mainstream applications. We have a really big plastic problem in our society, but I think there's something to be done with the circular economy. How do we take this waste material back? We're always asked about this.
yeah.
Every day we get questions. Can you take it back, Ravi? Can I send my waste back? So it's easier said than done. There's a lot of logistical, technical challenges, but I think the short answer is really have more impact on 3D printing and stay true to our sort of vision and to reduce the environmental impact. We want someone to use Filamentive or use our services, use our products, and know that they're reducing the environmental impact of what they do and then they're improving sustainability. So if we can help a person or a business do that, I think we're in a really good place. So I definitely want to do more of that as we go forward.
Excellent. And do you think more is being done in society around recycling? And is there a way that we can use 3D printing to, well, we can recycle, waste in, tips and turn it into filament that can be used within 3D printing?
I would say more is being done. I think that there is more focus and sort of funding in the right areas and, Innovate UK and sort of other sort of, green tech sort of funding and startups are coming through. So I think the right action is being taken. I think there needs to be more collaboration. So as you were saying there now, so sort of the government, the councils, the waste management authorities in our country, maybe there needs to be a quite clear collaboration with recycling companies, the additive manufacturing sector. How does that all add up? And I don't know what that looks like. I'm not going to pretend that I have the answer, but I think governmental business and even sort of charity or waste organizations need to work together to say, well, this is our challenge. Can that be a solution for 3D printing? Because, you know, okay, there's separation, all these kind of technical aspects to waste management, but if we can harness some of that plastic and use it for 3D printing, then the world is going to be a better place. It's going to be a cleaner place at least.
Yeah, definitely. If we were going to hit our net zero objectives, we do
That's
need to
it.
start doing things. I would say now.
We have to.
But thinking actually from a point of view to a young person who's listening to this, or maybe an adult, and they're thinking, oh, do you know what? I've loved what I've heard, and I'm quite interested now in 3D printing, and they wanted to join that industry, additive manufacturing. What piece of advice would you give to a young person? Actually, you know what? Not just in 3D printing, but in entrepreneurism in general. What piece of advice would you give to that individual about either setting up a business or getting involved in additive manufacturing?
No, very good question. I think maybe look at your own network, friends, family, whatever situation you're in. Is there someone, do you have an uncle that set up a business, an auntie that might work in a university somewhere and might have expertise with that? Maybe think about who you could speak to ask a few questions, because if they're within that field or something related, if they don't know the answer, they're going to be more than happy to help. If you are within a school or university environment, then absolutely anyone that's working in the sort of careers department will be able to help. But ultimately, okay, you should never take crazy risk. Always be calculated, but just give it a go. Always depends on your circumstances. I think when you're young, you're a student. Okay, you have less responsibility. There's less to lose, right? If you fail, so what? There might be a bit of money loss, but you're not really impacting anyone around you. But yeah, do what you can, but also educate as well. Self education is so important. Um, it's podcasts like this, listening to people, getting insights, reading. I hadn't picked up a book since university. It's only over the pandemic where I just thought, these books. Look, I need to get into it more. Read business books, psychology books. It almost doesn't matter, but there's always tools out there to really get an insight, and not everything's going to give you every answer. But just really immerse yourself and think, I've done all I can to learn more about it, or give it a go, and just enjoy it as well. It should never. There is going to be times where it's not going well, but just if that's something you really want to do, try it. You never know where it might lead.
Just before we go into 3 bonus questions, Ravi, just wanted to ask one more question to you.
Sure.
What would you say is the proudest moment of your career thus far?
Proudest moment of my career. Big question. Yeah, I think. I think. I think what it was, and again, it's one of those accolade things. Whatever it was something we didn't even win. But in 2018, we got shortlisted for being Material Company of the Year by
Wow.
3D printing industry, and I thought, I was taken aback because it's not just nominations from yourself; it's from some people in the industry. We didn't win the award. That's just kind of a bonus. That didn't really matter to me at the time. But we were in this category with BASF and multi-million, multi-billion-dollar companies in a category that, okay, I knew we wouldn't win that, but it's like we've been recognized here, and it was proud because it was, it's nothing to do with money or the size of your business. It's like we must do something, or there's enough people out there that have recognized what we do. And I just thought, wow, that means a lot, and that it kind of takes you through those lower moments where you're not sure if you're doing the right thing or the direction of the business. But I think when others, your peers and the market have given that reaction, that's one of the proudest moments. And we've been fortunate to be shortlisted since for these kind of awards, but I think it was that specific one that really I was particularly proud of. But there's loads of things, Blair. That's one thing, but I think just supporting people with their 3D printing and hearing stories at Open Bionics and what people do, people setting up businesses using your material. Okay, they could maybe buy it elsewhere, but you're supporting others and helping others in doing that. And I think that's what it comes down to. That's where I get my fulfillment or satisfaction and that feeling of being proud. Really, I would say.
Right, just in time. We're now on the bonus questions of the podcast.
Let's do it.
And as you know, Ravi, you've seen these bonus questions before. So, the first question that I'm going to ask you, and like I said, I am judging you. So please, I hope you give me the right answer. Uh, so, does pineapple belong on a pizza? Yes or no?
Yes. It's not. It's not. It's not. I was very quick to say yes, but I don't mind a Hawaiian. No, I've got to be honest. It's not my
Oh,
favorite pizza, but
no,
I've got
no.
to end, got to end it there.
We have honestly got to end it there. Like I think you're the fifth guest now that has said that pineapple belongs on a pizza, and every time I just get more
Have you tried
disappointed.
it? Have you tried it?
I have tried it, and then I tried it once, and I'll never try it again.
Never
I will
again. Never
take
again.
so so if somebody orders, let's say it's like a social function or a business event or party, whatever. And somebody actually does order a Hawaiian because everyone's ate the pepperoni or whatever. I will take a Hawaiian pizza. I will take the
Yep.
pineapple off the
Off.
pizza. It'll be a ham and it's a
Ham and
margarita
cheese.
pizza.
Yeah.
It's a ham and cheese pizza. And I'll eat the ham and cheese and then I'll eat the pineapple afterwards. But combined, no.
Yeah. 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 So you're still having it, but just separate. You're making the
Just
pineapple dessert, really.
yeah, because the saltiness of the tomato with the sweet of the pineapple is like,
It's a
no,
bit complimentary, though, I
no,
would say. But it's horses for courses, isn't it? It's an interesting one. It's a very polarizing
yeah.
question, which is, I guess, why you're asking it. But
It
yeah,
is. It just confirms
I
that
gave the wrong answer.
we've got some bizarre individuals on this earth.
On this podcast.
On this podcast. No, I'm only playing. The second one is it's an interesting one for your world in 3D printing. I suppose, What's the weirdest thing that you've seen personally 3D printed?
The weirdest thing. So I'm gonna have to say, like, obviously, probably keep it relatively PG, but I have seen, I have seen sort of some adult products that are 3D printed and like sold on Etsy and stuff. And I know it's always, I don't know if it's yeah, because my a lot of my mates used to joke about this, saying certain things, and then I've actually seen it, and by all accounts, it was hot selling products. It's not
Oh,
something at Filamentive we don't do any printing of products, but I've seen some adult things. Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if I was allowed to say that. I'll have to give another answer, but
no, no, no. That was the perfect answer to
yeah,
that
it was just
question because that
impulsive.
is
It's just
very weird,
it's
bizarre, and people are doing it and making money. So,
they're
ladies and
making
gentlemen,
money.
that is a
There's
way to make money in 3D.
This is the thing. That's the thing with 3D printing. You can look around and think, can this be 3D printed? And you can do it yourself, whatever it might be, and just give it a go. Stick it online, whatever.
Wow. Well, interesting. And then I suppose the last question, Ravi, is if you could have any, actually, do you know what? I'm going to change this one. If you could throw a dinner party tonight and you could
Yep.
invite three guests, dead or alive, who would you invite and why?
Three guess. Good question. Good question. I think I've been asked this before, and I forgot who I said, but the first one I would say Sir Alex Ferguson, big Man U fan. I think that's a bit of an obvious one. Yeah, I think something we agree on, Niall. So not just because of the Man U aspect, but I think him as a leader, as a person, just really fascinated me. I've read the books, heard all the stories from former players, and I think I'd really enjoy his company really. So he'd be my first one. I'm going to stick with the Man U and football theme, but I'm going to say Gary Neville, which some may think that's not bit of a non-obvious answer, but it's been really really fascinating person, I think for myself. So the football thing aside, I think he's just got involved in so many things that I'm really impressed by. And I'm not even sure how he manages it. Media career, punditry, politics, university, real estate, business. And I'd really like to, pick his brains on a few of those things. How we, managed to find time first of all, but also how he runs all these kind of things. But seems like a really nice bloke, really. Someone you can, just have a beer with and just enjoy his company and find out a lot, really. So yeah, heavily Man U focus for the first two. Third one, I would say probably my inspiration in sort of business, sort of growing up, is Steve Jobs. So huge. I'm a huge Apple fanboy. Really into Apple. Really admire the products as millions of us do. But I'd really like to find out more about him as a person and as a leader, how you grow into multi-billion-dollar business, how you can manage people, inspire people, and really be at the cutting edge of innovation, especially in our space being sort of tech based. That would be a huge privilege to spend time with him. So yeah, those would be my three.
A top dinner party. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. I just hope that Sir Alex wouldn't give you the hairdryer treatment or
That's
anybody else at that table.
that would just ruin it, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, no. Gary can receive it. Gary can receive it as a
Yeah,
former
yeah, he's
player.
probably used to it,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
he can have it.
Everybody else is spared. So, Ravi, I just want to say thank you for being a guest on the See Me Be Me podcast. And if the listeners here want to find out more about you or follow you on your journey, now is your chance to plug whatever socials, website. The floor's yours.
For sure, no, thank you. Now it's been a pleasure. So yeah, I'm relatively active on LinkedIn. Always like to connect with people, not just in 3D printing, but if you're on there, want to connect. My name's Ravi Toor, surname Toor. You'll find me on LinkedIn. Filamentive socials is just at Filamentive, so Filamentive on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. If you're interested in sustainable 3D printing, want to find out more, just give us a follow on look at our socials. And if anything else, feel free to message me on anything if you want to find out more and see if we can help you. I'm always here to help.
Yeah. And if you are listening and you have got a 3D printer, do give Ravi's filament a try. It's really good stuff. And I'll have to start getting back into 3D printing again. It's been a
I
long
think you should.
while.
I think you should.
Yeah. You've given me that bug again. So
That's it. That's
yeah.
it. Well, you know where to go for material, eh?
Hey, I know where to go now. I know where to go.
We can sort you out with that. No problem.
Oh, Ravi, again, thank you so much. And we will be keeping up to tabs with your journey. And maybe in the future we'll get you back on an episode to see updates on where you've gone since then.
Brilliant. Thanks, guys. Been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Nice one, Ravi.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Blair.
No.
Ravi Toor. What an amazing guest.
One of the longest ones and one of the best ones we've done, I reckon.
Yeah, and so what did you think about Ravi and his journey and the Filamentive and some of the topics he spoke about today?
No, it's really interesting. I mean, he was speaking that his entrepreneurial journey essentially started from his dad, who's had his own 2D printing company, and it's almost that inspiration from a family member. And how one of the things he mentioned is that with like a lot of entrepreneurs, it's almost something that's picked up from watching your family. Like similar to how we were watching our mum Marilyn and her journey as an entrepreneur, and that essentially inspired us into our journey within the Blair Project. So it's just interesting to see how our experiences align with his experience as well. And one of the other things that he mentioned is going in there and there's always things that you can pick up by either reading a book or just learning different insights from other entrepreneurs as well to pick up on your journey, because there's always things that you pick up. And as I said, there's not everything will be perfect, but it's also about learning and picking up new different bits of material in terms of shaping up your own business. I just found that really inspiring from Ravi and whatnot. What about yourself now?
Yeah, no, I thought, like I said, really great podcast, and it's a similar story to what we had in terms of you have your first bit of entrepreneurship is from an early age, so and it's how it's important to have role models. I think as you highlighted, what we had Marilyn when we were growing up as our role model. Ravi had his father. But then it's also saying, even if you don't have someone at home who is, whose parent is an entrepreneur and runs their own business, you can get inspiration from others. Yeah. So whether it's, through reading books, listening to podcasts, whether it's, going to university and, you're learning about something and then joining, looking up competitions. Like I think Ravi talked about the year of enterprise, where you can go and, from 1 year, do an internship, running your own company. I think the really, really great thing or beautiful thing that Ravi said is that, don't be afraid of failure. Yeah. That year, it was an opportunity for him to fail and just learn. And so that by the time he finished his degree, he was like, it didn't work out how I imagined in that 1 year. But why not give it a good crack? And in his words, I'm going to take it more serious. And that's what he did. And now Filamentive's grown. And he's here, he's been in business for 8 years now.
It's just that importance of just putting yourself out there. I mean, one of the things that Ravi was talking to us about as well is that he does these sort of talks to young entrepreneurs, young up-and-coming entrepreneurs, but also university students who are looking to get into environmental sustainability as well. And it's just encouraging these individuals to pursue careers in this avenue, maybe even set up their own businesses in this area as well, and just showing their interest within this sort of market and the opportunities that are out there, and just what it takes really to, let's say, run your own business, the hard work that it takes, and essentially speak to people on his journey and his journey with Filamentive.
Yeah. And he's following his passion, which is a very important thing. He did his degree in environmental sustainability, and now he's running a business that involves, it's eco-friendly. It's all about making a positive impact in the world and recycling, and recycling old waste, which can be transformed into something else that we can be more, it's productivity. So using old things to make new things. That's the power in 3D printing. And Ravi went into great detail where 3D printing is being used. There are some applications that that a 3D printing is being used that you wouldn't think of. So like food, not making plastic in food, but we're able to make chocolates and cakes and even pizza. You can 3D print concrete as well, and make homes. So really fascinating things that are being done. And what I really loved about Ravi is that he's when he first started Filamentive, he realized, right, okay, I've settled the business, I need to go out and find customers. And he went and did his market research, discovered hubs, or it was 3D hubs at the time, found there was 50 companies on that website, and decided, right, I'm going to contact each one, and how do I get in there? I'll send them some samples. They obviously tried his product. Some of them liked it, and you get your first customer that way. Not saying that is every way you can get your first customer, but it definitely helps. And the fact that for him, he agrees that word of mouth is the strongest marketing tool, which I'm a big advocate for. And he's had to learn to be an entrepreneur. He's not an expert in everything, but he's had to learn sales. You learn the marketing. You learn so many different things, finance. You put yourself out there, and then you might be working in your own business on your own for 2-3 years, and then you get to a stage where you can afford not to work in the business and just on it, and then you can take on people. And I thought that was very wise to take on the first person part-time, and then build your team around that. Yeah.
Really, as I say, really inspiring with Ravi. We've known him for quite a few years now. As he was saying, we were introduced to Ravi via partners of our 3D GBIRE. And since then, we've just kept in contact, and interested to see where Ravi goes in the future with Filamentive, and hopefully get him back on an episode for the future, maybe in a year or 2 years' time.
Definitely. Now, that's all we've got time for today, folks. If you have enjoyed this episode, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We are available on pretty much all social media platforms. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube at The Blair Project. And we're on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Get Me Motoring. So yeah, make sure to follow us on there. And that's all we got time for today. So stay tuned for another exciting episode. Take care.
Peace out, guys.
If you've liked today's episode, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. The Blair Project is on all major social media platforms, including Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube at The Blair Project. We're also on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Yes, we are on TikTok at Get Me Motoring. If you'd like to follow myself individually, I am on Instagram at Nile Henry, and also LinkedIn at Nile Henry as well.
And if you want to follow myself, I'm on Instagram as BlairHenry_97, and also on LinkedIn as just Blair Henry.
So we look forward to having you on the next episode. So stay tuned. Take care.
Until next time.